All right, everybody, peace. As you guys know, Sean Cottle, host of the GSMC College Football Podcast show, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Wow, we've got an amazing show for you guys today. We are going to be recapping some of the best games of the week in college football, and that's typically how we're going to be doing things. Typically Thursday and Friday are our preview shows, and Mondays typically our recap day. So, it's nice that we're on a little schedule right now, but and we have a lot of stuff to cover from this past weekend. Lots of big games, lots of exciting matchups, like lots of exciting football, and it did not disappoint, and it never does. That's the beautiful thing about college football. It's in all my years of watching college football, like sitting down and legitimately watching the games since I would say about maybe 8th grade, 7th grade perhaps. I can't recall a week where I did not, there was not at least one exciting game. Every weekend since I started watching college football, there's always been at least one exciting game. And that just speaks to the consistency and the type of energy that college football brings that no other sport can really emulate. So, that being said, let's get right into it, guys. Before we get started, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content that we post daily. And be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking in the search bar, and typing in GSMC Sports Network. That way you can gain access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network/tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network/tip. None of this is possible without you guys, the fans. We're just so grateful for all the love and support that you show us, and it's an honor to be here. So, with that being said, let's get right into the first match we're going to cover, guys. We're going to recap the Colorado-Oregon matchup, the most viewed game from this past weekend, but perhaps the most lopsided game. You guys know Oregon won by a score of 42-6. Oregon, like we talked about in our preview video, Oregon did a great job of establishing the line of scrimmage. They did a good job of dominating the line of scrimmage, both on the offensive side and defensive side. They recorded 7 sacks on the defensive end, and they rushed for over 250 yards. So no surprise there, and no surprise that Colorado has struggled on the interior. They have an undersized offensive line, and on defensive end they can't generate a lot of pressure. But this is nothing new. This is no surprise to us. And for those of us that watch college football, we knew that Oregon was going to win this game. We knew this game was going to be particularly close. It's just interesting how when you are on your path to success and people jump at every opportunity to capitalize on your downfall or to capitalize on your losses. And this is the same thing that's happened with Deion Sanders in Colorado. Listen, I am someone that said that Colorado has a lot of things to fix, lots of things to work on before they can be legitimate national championship contenders, let alone conference contenders. But they have made a step in the right direction, and they're and then people were getting on the head coach for Oregon, Dan Lanning, about his speech and how he motivated his players. But there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see nothing wrong with what he did to motivate his players. His pregame speech, just like anyone else. So we can't be too overly sensitive in these situations. It was just a speech. Literally, it's just a speech. Happens all the time. Only thing is he called in those cameras so people could hear the speech. But listen, there's nothing new that's going on here. This is just college football. This is how coaches are, man. So, but football-wise, it's no surprise. It's what we kind of expected. I didn't expect it to be this lopsided. I expected Oregon's defense to not be as dominant as they were. I expected Colorado to get a little bit more productivity on offensive end, so that was a little surprising. But aside from that, I expected this to not be a close game. I expected Oregon to win by at least 10 points, and obviously they've covered the spread I had for them. So this is nothing new. This is, I wanted to open up with this because it was the most watched game of the weekend, but there's just not much to take away. But I will say this though, Bo Nix has he has made a lot of stakes in his claim for the Heisman candidacy, and I hope you guys tune in on Wednesday for our segment of the way too early Heisman list to see where he lands on that, because this was one of those statement ones. I said this during the preview show that whichever quarterback wins this game is gonna almost double their chances of winning the Heisman just off this game alone, and Bo Nix has done that. But I want to know what you guys think. What did you guys think about this game, this Oregon and Colorado game? What are your thoughts, your takeaways? Leave your thoughts in the comment section, because I'd love to hear all about it. But that's just, this wasn't a surprise to me, and to everyone else who watched college football, wasn't that much of a surprise. We expected Oregon to dominate this game and expect Colorado to struggle in the interior, because that's the only place they're lacking is on the offensive line and on the defensive line. And, getting guys to generate pressure. I think they averaged 1.7 yards per carry in this last game, so putting a lot of pressure on Deion Sanders and in the passing game. But the O-line isn't built for long, 5-step drops and 7-step drops in pass protection. So when you're forced to pass, defense knows you're going to pass, but you can't pass protect. Just, you're in that much more of a disadvantage. So, nothing new here. But I'm still not entirely sold on Oregon, because it's not surprising to me. Still not sold on Oregon, though. Still not sold on them. But let me know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. But in our next segment, guys, we're going to be discussing another top 25 matchup between Alabama and Ole Miss. So, guys, be sure to stick around. You're not going to miss that. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first segment of our show, we talked about the biggest takeaways from the Oregon and Colorado matchup and why it really came as no surprise, especially if you've actually been watching the game to understand that Colorado still has a lot of holes they need to work on, things they need to fix, and I'm still not sold on Oregon. But let me know what you guys see in the comment section. What are your guys' biggest takeaways from that Oregon-Colorado matchup? In our next segment, though, we're going to be discussing the matchup between Alabama and Ole Miss. And it just seems like, no matter what people, as much as people want to talk about Alabama and say that they're done, and people look for every opportunity to, like I said, to capitalize on the downfalls or losses of you when you're being successful. And Alabama's no different. Alabama lost the game against Texas, and people said it was over. People said it was over last week when they struggled against UCF, or USF. But during this game, Alabama showed you why they're built of championship pedigree and why they're a step above everyone else. Alabama beat Ole Miss by a score of 24-10. Jalen Milroe was quite proficient in the game, 17-25, 225 yards, 1 touchdown. Chase McKellen had 17 carries, 105 yards. So Alabama did a great job of establishing the run. This was an old-fashioned Alabama win where you don't rely on the offense, but you're relying on your defensive prowess in your defensive your defensive side. I talked about Alabama was able to generate 2 turnovers, then they win this game easily, and they don't only generate 1 turnover, but the secondary was phenomenal. I mean, Kool-Aid McKinstry, you can make the argument that he's the best cornerback in college football as a sophomore. But like I said, the secondary for Alabama was phenomenal, and the interior was just as good. They did a great job of establishing pressure, great job of stopping the run. They limited Ole Miss to under 80 yards running, and it was just phenomenal. I mean, wow, the defense, the Alabama's defense. When I talked about this specifically after the Texas game, how Alabama's defense is much better than people think. I know they gave up 34 to Texas, but that's because they were on the field for so long, and hope people were able to see from this game just how good Alabama's defense is, especially when you give them a chance to time to rest and get time off the field. And Alabama's ability to establish the run, they committed to the run. I mean, Chase McKellen had 17 carries, Jalen Milroe had 16 carries, Rodale Williams had 8 carries, Jan Miller had 1 carry. You have to commit yourself to the run, especially if you're Tommy Rees in there at this Alabama offense, because teams know that they're only going to look to throw the deep ball with Jalen Milroe. So you got to commit to the run. You got to keep the defense honest, and even if it's getting 3 yards, 4 yards a carry, almost akin to the 2015 season with Derrick Henry. They were caught in the box with Derrick Henry, but they still committed to the run, and there would be times where Derrick Henry would get 40 carries a game and only have 200 yards, but they ran the clock they ran the ball 40 times, and they did a good job of establishing the run and running time off the clock. And that was another iteration of Alabama's team where they had a phenomenal defense led by Minka and Marlon Humphreys and Eddie Jackson and Deshaun Hand and a young Reuben Foster and Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, and so that was another iteration of young guys on that roster. But this team is kind of built like that, where you're gonna have to rely on your defense, and you're gonna have to just establish the run, because your offensive game isn't as explosive, which is okay. And quite frankly, I think this is the type of game that Alabama, that Nick Saban likes. This is where he kind of likes that space to be in, where you're just doing what his earlier championship teams did from 2009 to 2013, where you rely on your defense and your offense will make plays when necessary. But this is a great win by Alabama. This shows me that Alabama is still, like I said, in your favorite as a favorite to win the national championship, just because of their championship pedigree and their consistency. They have a good chance of running through, or moving through the SEC West, especially based off recent performances we've seen from Tennessee and from LSU, and they have a good chance of getting to the SEC championship game, and where they'll most likely be matched up against Georgia, and then from there we'll see how things go, and how the rest of the college football landscape plays out. But this is a great win for Alabama, an exciting win, great for them to get back on track, and this shows you that Alabama's never out of it. They're always in it. But that's what happens when you have great culture and great championship pedigree. But let me know what you guys think. What was your guys' biggest takeaways from this Alabama-Ole Miss matchup, and was this a surprise to you? But in our next segment, guys, we are going to be discussing the matchup between Ohio State and Notre Dame. Very exciting ending to that game. So we're going to cover all that. Be sure to stick around. We'll be right back. Alright, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first two segments of our show, we talked about the big takeaways from the Oregon-Colorado game as well as the Ole Miss-Alabama game. And in this segment, guys, we're going to be discussing the big takeaways from probably the most exciting game of the week, the Ohio State-Notre Dame game. But before we get into that, guys, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content. And be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar, and typing in GSMC Sports Network. That way you can gain access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. None of this is possible to you guys as fans, we're so grateful for all the love and support that you show us, and it's a blessing to have this platform. But that being said, guys, let's go get right into this game right here, this matchup we have. Ohio State, Notre Dame. I had Ohio State winning this game, and just like we talked about, but however, I didn't have the game being this close. The Ohio State would win this game by, I believe I had 24-17. If I'm wrong about that score, one of you guys can correct me, but I believe that was the prediction I had. I was impressed with Notre Dame's defense, but this was the first game I was able to see Ohio State live and actually watch a full game. And I will say this: I'm not sold on Ohio State. I am not. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. got hurt during the game, but I'm not sold on them. I'm not sold on them offensively. Defensively, yes, they look good, but we all know that Notre Dame struggles immensely offense year in and year out. I don't know. I just don't understand why Notre Dame continues to get ranked in the top 10 or as high as it does, knowing that they're not that good, quite frankly. And I know Marcus Freeman is doing a great job over there, establishing culture in his second year and getting the right guys there, but Notre Dame is not where it needs to be right now. And time again, Notre Dame shows that they're not in that top tier level with the Georgias and the Alabamas and the US and the Ohio States and the USCs. They're a tier below that. You know, they should be competing with teams like LSU or Washington, those sort of teams. But they're not in that top tier level, and for them to be constantly ranked as high as they are coming into the season is disrespectful to other teams that they're ranked above. Because I know watching this game, I think Notre Dame, they're a top 25 team, but do I think they're a top 10 team? No, I don't. And I don't see how you can say that based on what they presented in the game. They struggled offensively. Defensively, they were good, but also Ohio State is just not where it needs to be offensively. I mean, Ohio State. Listen, I knew that Notre Dame wasn't going to be as good as people thought they were, but man, I'm really shocked by how poor Ohio State played, and Ohio State blowing that 10-point lead with like 4 minutes left, and then Notre Dame giving up the lead on that final possession, and then having 10 players on the field two plays in a row in the last game in the last 2 plays of the game. How's that happen? So I mean, I was never sold on Notre Dame, and now I'm really not sold on Ohio State. And I firmly believe now that Michigan and Penn State are both better than Ohio State. And I'll talk about that later in the week on our show, but I firmly believe now that that Michigan and Penn State are both better than Ohio State, emphatically, and it's not even close. So that's going to be interesting when those two. I don't think it's going to be interesting. I think that people are going to see how that Michigan and Penn State are both a step above. Cause we saw Penn State did to Iowa. I mean it was Iowa. Their offense always struggles so well, but Penn State just wiped the floor with them, and I think that's going to be the same match. That's going to be the same result when Penn State plays Ohio State. But yeah, I'm just not sold on either of these two teams, man. But it was a great win on the road for Ohio State. Notre Dame is back to the drawing board, and they're once again out of college football playoff contention just that quickly, because they're just not gonna be good enough. I mean, even if they went out, they don't pass the eye test. Um, Ohio State definitely isn't passing the eye test now. But let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about this game? Are you guys sold on Ohio State? Do you think Notre Dame is actually? Excuse me. Do you guys think Notre Dame is actually that good, or what are your guys' thoughts? Let's hear what you guys have to say about it. But in our next segment, guys, we are going to be actually, real quick. I do want to say one more thing. Listen, I understand that Ohio State just put in Kyle McCord as their starting quarterback, but I'm really not sold on their offense, guys. I'm really not sold on Ohio State offensively and defensively. The only reason that they performed as well as they did is because Notre Dame's offense is atrocious, and it was the same way last year. And and because I heard a lot of people saying that, Notre Dame, this is a great showing by Notre Dame, and they didn't, they had a blunder the last two possessions of the game, or last two plays of the game, but this is a great game for them, and they matched up well against a Power 5 team and a great, great team in college football. But no, I don't see that. I'm not sold on Notre Dame. I have not been sold on Notre Dame for the past 6 years because, listen, every time Notre Dame gets on the big stage, the same thing happens. Alabama in the national championship game, Clemson in the college football playoff. Time and time again, Alabama again in the Rose Bowl. I mean, time and time again, they show that they're a step below these teams. And I guess this is the perk of not being in a conference, being an independent. But you can't listen. I'm not falling for any of the tricks Notre Dame plays on the public eye. And I'm surprised people are still falling for it. Just, man, year in, year out, the same thing. They're ranked in the top 10, ranked in the top 5. Then they have a huge loss to a team that's also in the top 5 or also in the top 10. So, when even last year when they played USC, I mean, they got throttled, and we saw what happened to USC when they played Utah in the conference championship game. I mean, how many times are you going to fall for this trick that Notre Dame is playing on the public? It's just, I don't understand it. And I'm not saying that they won't be good, but right now, they're showing me the same thing that they showed year in and year out for the past decade almost. And I know Marcus Freeman's doing a good job of changing the culture there and reestablishing his culture there. But right now, no, I'm not sold on Notre Dame. I'm not sold on Notre Dame, and I'm not sold on Ohio State. So people say this is a big win, good win for Ohio State. It's not. It's just a win. You did what you're supposed to do. You went in there and beat Notre Dame. You did what you're supposed to do. And that's my takeaway from this, guys. But let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about this matchup between Ohio State and Notre Dame? What are your guys' biggest takeaways? Am I reading too much into this? Am I not hitting the mark on this? Let me know what you guys think. Am I way off base? Let me know what you guys think about this. But that's just me. But guys, in our next segment, we're going to be discussing Florida State and Clemson. And yeah, talk about teams that just have been a facade of their former selves and just not who they once were. Clemson, man, they are in a state of limbo, a serious state of limbo. But guys, we're gonna be covering all of that in our next segment, so be sure to stick around. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. In case you missed the first couple segments of our show, we just talked about the biggest takeaways from the Oregon Colorado matchup and how those results didn't come as much of a surprise, especially figuring that Colorado's interior, both offensively and defensively, are one undersized and haven't been performing well all season. So that Oregon winning that game did not come as a surprise to me. The only thing that came as a surprise to me in that game was the margin of victory, but besides that was it. Also talked about the Alabama Ole Miss game, big takeaways from that, and also talked about the matchup between Ohio State and Notre Dame. And I'm just not sold on Notre Dame, but we're gonna leave that right there. But this segment, guys, we're gonna be talking about the biggest takeaways from the Florida State Clemson game. But before we get into that, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all the latest content that we post daily. But okay, let's get right into it. All right, Florida State and Clemson. Now I said that this game between Clemson and Florida State was going to be the start of a shift in power for the ACC, shifting from Clemson over to Florida State. But also this game had a lot riding on it for the ACC, because if Clemson would have won this game, there would have been no one in the ACC representing. There would have been no one in the college football playoff representing the ACC, because Clemson doesn't pass the eye test even with this win, and Florida State has too big of a loss, an ACC loss at that, to Clemson, and now they're not eligible to play in the conference championship. So the ACC would have all but eliminated themselves from the college football playoff if Clemson were to win this game. But Florida State did a great job of knocking off the giant in the ACC that is Clemson, and really pushing Clemson into a state of limbo, not knowing exactly where they want to go moving forward. And Dabo Swinney is someone that has been staunchly against the NIL and the impact it's had on college football, and that has impacted his recruiting tremendously. We talked about this almost about a month ago, how his lack of recruiting top talent now is hiding the mistakes that his team makes during the game, because your talent level is no longer able to hide your deficiencies and your mistakes that you make. And the NIL is not going anywhere, Dabo, and he knows that. And then now you have to start to question: does he really want to continue coaching college football? I mean, listen, he's got two national championships. He's gonna go down as one of the greatest coaches in college football history. Does he really want to keep doing this? Does he really want to be a part of this era of college football, or the state of being that college football is in right now? That he's not entirely agreeing with the state that it's in right now, and like we said, it affects his recruiting. So does he really want to be here? Does he really want to be at Clemson moving forward? That only he can answer that. But Florida State pushed Clemson into that state of limbo, and now it's only going to affect the recruiting even more because now guys don't want to go to Clemson anymore because they can't get the right NIL deals, and they're not going to be competing for national championships. So what's the purpose of going? You have Florida State, who looks like they're on the re-emergence. They're 4-0, 2-0 conference play. They, like I said, knocked off Clemson. They have a Heisman candidate in Jordan Travis, who performed well. Do I think Florida State is actually the fourth best team in college football? No, I don't. But, having the conference championship on your resume says a lot, and possibly going undefeated says a lot. It's hard to have all that on your resume and the college football playoff committee still keep you out. So, it's ACC is an interesting state. The ACC has all their chips in on Florida State and then making the college football playoff, because this is the only way the ACC is going to have someone to represent them in the college football playoff. That's if Florida State can make it there, and they make it there by going undefeated and winning the ACC. But, Florida State, those receivers, their offense looks good, but the only reason I think this game was close is because it's a rivalry game, and we're in conference play, and it was on the road. It was a great win by Florida State. I mean, they hadn't beaten Clemson since 2015, so this is a great win, great moral victory as well for Florida State. So they definitely just blew out the ceiling for themselves moving forward, and they're riding on a lot of confidence, because this was a big mental hurdle for them to get over Clemson. And now I feel Florida State probably feels like they're their best team in the ACC, but also probably one of the best teams in the country, if not the best team in the country. Would I agree with that? Not exactly. But they have put themselves in prime position to win out in the ACC and hopefully put themselves in good position to win the conference championship. But obviously, not gonna put the cart before the horse. We're gonna take one game at a time. But Florida State has definitely put themselves in prime position with this victory, and Clemson is now in a state of limbo. But that was my biggest takeaway from this game. Let me know what you guys think. Is Clemson in a state of limbo? Is Dabo Swinney thinking about retirement? Is Florida State actually one of the best teams in college football? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, because I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it. But that being said, guys, those are our takeaways from the best games in the past weekend, and that's it for our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content that we post daily. And be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. None of this is possible without you guys, the fans. We're just so grateful for you guys, supporting our platform and tuning into other shows, and it's an honor. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our other podcast shows as well: the GSMC Baseball Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and the GSMC NFL Podcast as well. All of our hosts provide great insight and content on the sports that they're covering, and it's an honor to be working alongside some of the best in the business when it comes to sports media personalities. So, that being said, guys, we will be back same time tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But until then, continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and until next time, guys, peace.